Hi, I'm Paul Chartier. Welcome back to Heart of Gold. We have never had on a queen before. Miss Kentucky, Clark Janelle Davis, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I may be tempted at the end to just see what that feels like, see how heavy it is.
It's heavier than it looks.
It doesn't make your head like tilt to one side or the next.
Well, a little bit sometimes.
Awesome neck muscles.
You have to learn how to keep your head up straight.
Yes,
so.
And the wave that goes with that. And Allison Stone, who you are in high regard, a special education teacher.
Thank you.
And your relationship to Clark is what?
I am her educational consultant on dyslexia.
Talk about that.
Yes, so when I became Miss Kentucky, I had the privilege of meeting Miss Allison Sloan here. And we have really kind of come together as a little team to help create the Best Me I Can Be Foundation, which I'm working on making great right now. So she is really here to help me understand what's happening in the schools while I'm out there talking to legislators about the changes that we need to be making.
We kind of jumped into the why, but let's get the road map to how you came to wear that crown, because a lot of things had to happen to get to this point.
Definitely.
You come from great parents who I know individually and together. You've got a talented brother who's played basketball at Butler. And how did Clark get to this point?
Well, I have to start out by saying a lot of prayer is where you start. That's day one. That's something that my family has really instilled in me. So becoming Miss Kentucky, people ask me what was that moment when I thought, a pageant would be fun. And I can't really tell you. I just kind of woke up one day, my freshman year of college, and truly thought, a pageant would be fun to try. And through that and putting a lot of faith in God and knowing that He really had a plan for me, I was able to win my first pageant January of 2015. By July of 2015, I became Miss Kentucky, and by September of 2015, I was at the Miss America stage, which is one of the highest honors that I've had thus far in my short 18 years of life here.
So there's been a lot going on in a short amount of time.
A lot going on.
Your childhood, was it, gosh, I want to be a beauty queen one day? I mean, what was your aspiration as a child?
Well, you know, this whole pageant thing is very new to me. So when I was younger, I had a passion for arts. And so I was a theater major at SCAPA in Lexington, and I continued that throughout my high school career. And I really wanted to be a great singer, but then on the other hand, I also knew that I wanted to become president of the United States one day. So that's still in the works for me too.
You could be the first president to sing your own inauguration song.
That's what I'm hoping for. And if I can squeeze in that dress I wore on the Miss America stage, I'd wear that at my inauguration too.
That is not why we're here right now.
Okay.
You are eating great food on all these trips that you take. So the connection between you two, was it because of you being Miss Kentucky? And then what is your contribution? What's your relationship now with Clark?
Well, if I may, it's kind of an odd story. It's social media story that I literally was on Facebook one day and I saw a story about Clark and that her platform as she was Miss Kentucky was dyslexia. I had just found out my son was dyslexic, and I said literally on social media, who can make a contact? Because, you know, 3 degrees of separation and you make a contact. And within 2 weeks, I think, we were talking and working together and saying, what can we do? And where can we go with this? And it literally, someone recently, a friend told me that I'm kind of in the middle of a perfect storm, and I believe that's kind of where we are, and we're building on it and going places with it.
The bravery to wake up and say, I want to do this. The bravery to say, I'm going to do this and make the connection. I mean, how many times do people defeat themselves because they say no?
Every day.
I can't do it. And the magic that can happen by just trying and seeing what happens. Your mom and I talked about this idea that you had to start this organization of which you're on the path right now. Tell us about that organization.
Yes, so when I was in the 3rd grade, I was diagnosed with dyslexia, and I really had a hard time being able to get accommodations. I was in a public school system in Lexington, and really having to fight the school. I mean, there was no way for me to get tested for dyslexia within the school system. So my parents had to take me out of school and get tested, which usually costs families between $1,500 and $2,000. And then beyond that, I was still denied services. I wasn't given extra time on my ACT. I'm still denied extra time for my exams at UK. And through all of this and coming back to becoming Miss Kentucky and really seeing this as my platform, I understand that, first off, this should never have happened to me. This is something that I think we so easily could have changed while I was still in school, but nobody was truly a voice for it. Nobody was really there to be the front of that change. So now I see it as my mission to help all of the little kids that were just like me, that it's so easy to get in this downward spiral where you start to defeat yourself and say, the school doesn't want to help me, you know, the ACT doesn't want to see me do better, nobody wants to see me succeed, and I don't want any other student to have to fall into that pit and not be able to get themselves out of it.
Did you feel a stigma, a silent stigma that you have dyslexia, that your classmates they're moving ahead, but what's going on with me?
All the time, all the time. It's quiet, so often you don't talk about your dyslexia, but when you're that kid that gets called on in class and you know you're not prepared to read, so you're looking in the book and your friends start to giggle because you know you're in high school and you should be able to just read this sentence out loud. They don't think about how when you're looking at that sentence, you're not even seeing the same words that everyone else is seeing on the page. And you know, you slowly start to defeat yourself and think, oh, you know, people don't think I'm smart, nobody's looking at me and thinking I can become anything, so can I? Am I even capable of doing something great?
For the people watching and the people you want to watch, how did you identify your dyslexia as a young person?
Well, that was really thanks to my mom. She paid a lot of attention to me when I was younger, and she just kind of noticed that I wasn't as quick picking up on learning to read and basic skills that young people should be able to pick up on. So through that, my mom was actually able to help me identify my dyslexia and then get me further testing for it.
And from the educational side, for kids that have this, how do you identify it? How do you let the family know, don't hide it, it's not going to get better on its own? And what path can these kids be on to accelerate their education?
That's exactly what we're working on to try to improve in the public school system. Currently, there are a few school systems in Kentucky that are doing it the way we'd like to see all school systems doing it, and that is pre-screening all students, especially those that show signs, hopefully before they reach first grade. That way, and teachers need to be trained on the signs and symptoms so they know which kids need to be screened.
Give it to us right now.
Those signs and symptoms are disorganization, not wanting to read out loud, stress, anxiety. Spelling is horrendous for any child with dyslexia. It really becomes a horrible, painful thing for them. Not being able to use directional words, frontwards, backwards, middle, left, right. Those are things that when you tell a child, go to the back of the room, they're not sure which side of the room or where they're supposed to go. Those are usually the quick key things. They're not picking up on the reading skills as quickly as others, not decoding it, not comprehending what's there. So they're the quick signs. Once they see those signs, we hope that they are able to be screened appropriately, not necessarily diagnosed within the school system, but at least screened, because we have statistics show that if they show signs of dyslexia, there are certain what we call multisensory strategies and interventions where students are manipulating letters, using tactile and kinesthetic and visual and hearing things all at the same time, which is kind of hard to do in a classroom with 30 kids when you have one or two kids that need that.
It sounds very chaotic going on.
It is very chaotic because research will show you both sides of their brains are not talking to each other the way they're supposed to, so all those things together help the left and right side talk together. Once these things are put into place and the students are pulled in for one-on-one or small group interventions with these multisensory strategies, the research shows the tremendous improvement they show immediately. Test scores, reading ability, the anxiety levels start to decrease. But we have to get the teachers trained. We need to start at the college level so that we're putting out pre-service teachers ready to identify this. Then we need to get the teachers trained on the symptoms, get the kids screened, get them into these programs in the school systems.
For people watching, for people that you encounter, and the parents think there's something wrong with my kid, where can they go right now to get some kind of relief?
It's kind of a difficult question because many parents are finding that within their own schools, they're not getting the help that they need. And it goes back to not so much people not wanting to, it's the lack of training, the lack of knowledge, and it's kind of we're needing to back up history and start over again. Outside of that, there are many child psychologists within the area, mostly at Lexington area, Louisville area, that you need to take your children to get these screenings and diagnosis. That becomes difficult because if you go seeking a dyslexia diagnosis, it's thousands of dollars. and that's very difficult for our parents when it should be part of the free public education.
Do you have any idea the percent of kids that have dyslexia?
It's approximately 20% of people. It doesn't just affect young kids in school. When you have dyslexia, you have it your entire life. And so there's never a moment where you don't have it. There's never a moment where you overcome it. So from day one to the end of your days, you have dyslexia. So it actually affects people in the workplace as well, where it goes back to not wanting to read out loud, not being able to type quickly because your brain isn't processing the letters as fast as it should. So it affects 1 in 5 people, 20% of the population.
How did you overcome it? Have you overcome it?
I haven't overcome it. You know, there are days where I can read and everything's just fine, for as fine as things are for me. But then there are days where I will look at, you know, a script or something that someone has handed to me, and my brain just, I mean, it can't understand. I just can't process what's going on the page. So I definitely haven't overcome it, but I haven't let it define me either. I am more than my dyslexia. I am still Clark Davis. I am still ambitious and proud of who I am. And yes, that's a part of me, but I embrace it and I move on.
Do you have a website and or a phone number that people could go to for your new event, for your new adventure?
We are still working on a website, so we will definitely have to get back to you on that. And the phone number that they can contact for right now, the easiest way, is 859-494-9345.
And whose phone number is that?
That gets a hold of my manager, my mom, and then through...
As long as we're preparing that person for a bunch of phone calls coming in when the program airs.
She's okay with it, I'd like to think. But yeah, that'll take you to my mom, and then through her, and once we get more of my organization on its feet, we'll of course have a different phone number, but that'll get to her, and that's the easiest way to get to us as well.
For people with an affliction, dyslexia, or really anything going on, they are embarrassed, they want to bury it, they don't want to talk about it. You're blowing it out there, and I think it's great for anybody with anything going on to say, I'm owning it, it's part of me, I can be successful, I can move on. In about the last minute, I do know your mom and dad, and they are great folks, and I know that you've got a brother who's off at Butler playing basketball.
Yes.
And I feel for your dad with two women in the house, one of which probably wears a sash and a crown all the time.
That would be my mom.
So today I got something for your dad that he can wear this in the house, and he doesn't need to be the only one without a crown. So please, as a gift from me.
I will. This is for you, Dad.
This is a crown for your father, so he's got a little bit of ownership in the house.
That's awesome.
Outnumbered by the powerful ladies. In the last minute, the last plea to let people contact you to overcome adversity.
Yes. So one of the first things I have to say is for any person who is an adult or maybe in college or a child, don't be afraid of your dyslexia. Don't be afraid of anything that makes you different, because that's what makes you special, and that's what connects you to someone else. You might think, oh gosh, I spell my name wrong every once in a while, but Miss Kentucky does that all the time.
If you think your power of Miss Kentucky was wearing this, it's what you're doing with it.
Thank you.
So good for you for doing that.
Thanks.
If I may, you asked the question what people could do if they're in search of information. There are several organizations in Kentucky that are working to help children with dyslexia, and just to get that information out until we get our stuff set up, there's the International Dyslexia Association, Decoding Dyslexia. There's one in my area of Moorhead, Kentucky. There is one in Louisville and one in Campbell County, Kentucky. There is the Hyman Settlement School in Knott County, the Center of Dyslexia, Learning Disability Association, Dyslexia Association of Kentucky, and the Shed Dyslexia Association. So all of those associations and organizations can help.
Allison Sloan, a great way to wrap up.
Thank you.
Clark, it's been a pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot about you, seen you on TV, singing at the Capitol, being on national TV. You're a delight to meet in person.
Thank you.
And you are really a merging of your mom and dad. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I am Paul Chartier. We'll be back with Heart of Gold in just a minute.